here at Hughes Stadium. Set up the wide receiver screen, Borky. Data man misses the 11. He'll go in for the touchdown.
Great moments in Colorado State athletics history. Echo from the Aggies to the Rams of today.
He beats Ogade, and he drives. His stuff go down. Fans are pouring on the court here at Moby Arena.
Tonight we step back to reflect on the achievements of the Colorado State Hall of Fame class of 2010. We honor and celebrate 5 student athletes who add to our tradition of greatness and strengthen our foundation of character. Dan Beatty was the first student athlete to achieve All-American status in school history. He was a 3-time letter winner in football. In track and field, he excelled in discus, hammer, and shot put. Beatty set numerous records and led the track team to the conference title in 1929.
His senior year, he was captain of the team, and of course he was the first All-American in a non-football sport at Aggies, and I know he was quite proud of that. In 1930, in the spring of 1930, when he graduated, he was awarded the Nye Trophy, which, as I understand, is still awarded today, and he was quite proud of that.
During his time at the Colorado Agricultural College, he served on the student council and was the vice president of his freshman class. His academic and athletic achievements have been recognized before.
I know that he was honored by CSU in 1963 as one of the honor alums. And I believe if you would be able to give him the comparison of that honor with his athletic honors, that he might put them on a par.
Dan served as a teacher and administrator at Fort Collins High School for 4 decades, and his influence in Poudre schools is readily apparent.
In 1972, Beatty Elementary School was named after Dan, and he was quite proud of that.
Excelling in both academics and athletics makes Dan Beatty a great example of what it means to be an Aggie.
It's quite an honor to be able to represent him, and I admire CSU for paying this tribute to him. Our whole family is quite proud that he's being honored.
Make sure and drive the left out to clear your upper body. Keep the right back.
Marshall Smith enjoys working with young athletes and hopes to pass on a small bit of his love of the throwing events. He believes receiving this honor gives him an opportunity to inspire them to achieve great things.
And get the most acceleration on the implement in your release. If you can impress that upon a student or an athlete and they grasp that idea and they're willing to pursue it, then you've done your job as a coach or a teacher.
He gives a lot of credit to Coach Del Hessel for inspiring him to reach for success.
You know, he wasn't the biggest by far, and he wasn't the strongest by far, but his technique was just impeccable.
He was an outstanding athlete. He was a team leader, but he represented Colorado State on the highest level you can do.
Teammate Doug Max remembers marveling at Marshall's work ethic.
Marshall was one of the hardest working athletes I ever saw.
I swear one time we were out there on that throwing field for over 3 hours. And he just kept throwing and throwing, you know, and I just figured as long as he's going to be here, I'm going to be here.
Marshall set many records at Colorado State and was one of the top throwers in the nation for several years in the early 1970s.
Marshall won them all. Marshall won the Triple Crown, which was unheard of in those days to be able to win Texas, Kansas, and Drake. So Marshall didn't leave anything undone.
I think to be a Hall of Famer, you have to be, what have you done over and beyond what the normal student athlete does? And he excelled in all those areas. He was a leader. He was All-American. To place in the top 2 or 3 in the NCAA a couple times is just a phenomenal feat.
Sandy Ham was the first ever CSU cross-country runner to qualify for the NCAA championships. Her coaches credit much of her success to her competitive approach to running.
Personality-wise, just a fierce competitor, just ferocious, not afraid of anybody, respected a lot of people, had good character traits,
but just a girl who would go in there and just run right to the end.
She just was a true competitor, you know, and her college career, she was probably one of the fiercest competitors I ever had at Colorado State University.
Sandy was competing at the NCAAs in Austin, Texas, and Coach Doug Max remembers what an impact she made on the fans in the stands.
And she was running the, you know, the 5,000 and doing a really good job, but was kind of sitting back, and it was a hot, really muggy day. Well, all of a sudden, with 2.5 laps to go, she found a gear, and you could just hear it in the stands going, whoa. And I timed her last quarter. She ran a 59-second flat quarter, her last 400 meters, and she almost won a national championship. She was 1.5 strides from winning it.
Sandy was CSU's first female All-American in cross country, and in 1992 placed 3rd at the Olympic trials in the 5,000 meters.
She never quit, never had quit in her bones, didn't blame other people, didn't blame the circumstances, took the adversity that she had and learned from it, and would admit the adversity, fix it, and never repeat it. I mean, she was just that kind of an athlete.
Sandy also won many Scholar Athlete awards, and these days gives back through the running club at Eyestone Elementary in Wellington.
Yeah. Hey, nice job, ladies.
It makes us feel better about ourselves, makes us feel good to achieve our goals.
When you just look at her as an overall person, it's the epitome of what a Hall of Fame person is. It's somebody who gives back to their community, it's somebody who's achieved a high level, and then she's just a role model every day.
I feel very fortunate to have this job, that I can impact so many young lives and turn them on to running, and who knows, maybe someone will run for the Rams.
Runners on 2nd and 3rd with 2 out. The pitch to Buford, base hit. 1 run will come in. Huff scores, an error out in the outfield. Adams will wheel in the score as well. It's 2-1 Carolina on the single and then the error as Buford gets the job done.
Competing in softball as a professional athlete was a dream come true for Jennifer Buford.
Credit Buford with a single. 2-run score as Huff and Adams come in.
I think it was unheard of when I was younger, and to even have that opportunity to travel the country and to be able to play was a lot of fun and very, very challenging, but you know, an experience I would never give up.
Jen played second base for the CSU's 10th ranked 1997 softball team. They finished the year 1 out away from going to the College World Series. She led the team in on-base percentage and was named All-American in 1997 and 1998.
She was a natural athlete is how I would describe her. She was one that she probably didn't need to go to practice a day in her life. I don't know what her batting average was, but I know it was pretty high. I mean, every time she got up to bat, she would just put the ball down on the ground anywhere, and for how fast she was always on. She was so fun to watch.
When things were not going well, her teammates would always look to her to jumpstart a rally.
You know, if we were in a slump or, you know, it was 1-1 in the 7th inning and she was up to bat, we knew it would get started by her. She always could make things happen.
She set single-season records in stolen bases and runs scored. In her senior year, she led the team in hitting while batting .385.
I think to be in the Hall of Fame, you have to be somebody that doesn't come around very often. And that's Jen. She could hit home runs off the right side, and then she could bunt on the left side. And then that wasn't even enough. Her 5th year, she had to go try and play basketball.
I mean, how lucky was I, you know, to be playing with Becky Hammond and Katie Cronin.
In 1999, Jen walked on to the women's basketball team. She made the team as a point guard and saw action in 25 games. She was a part of the most successful women's basketball team in school history.
Jen was tough. She doesn't look tough, but she was so tough and just funny and just good to be around and a great teammate, which all of us appreciated.
These days, Jen devotes her energy to coaching young softball players. The 1999 women's basketball team went on to appear in the Sweet 16 in the NCAA tournament. At the heart of it all was Katie Cronin.
When Becky and Katie played, it was magical. If Becky was the ice, Katie was the fire. Becky was always cool and calm and collected, and Katie was the passionate, fiery one. I mean, you weren't going to get away with being non-competitive with Katie. If you had Katie opposing you, you better watch out. You better bring your game.
She made all her teammates around her better. She worked harder than anybody. And she has that inner fire in her belly.
Katie won first-team all-conference honors 3 times while starting every game of her career. In her senior year, she finished second on the team in scoring at 14.8 points per game.
She really could play every position on the court, 1 through 5, and she was such a dynamic player. She was incredibly talented. She was the type of player that could get 8,000 people in the arena on their feet cheering.
She set her career high in her final game in the Sweet 16 of the NCAA tournament with 6 3-pointers. She reunited with many of her teammates for 3 seasons while playing professionally with the Colorado Chill.
I think this is a way to truly honor her for all those years and all the hard work that she's put in, and just what a phenomenal basketball player she was.
Katie Cronin finished her career within the top 3 in 9 of CSU's all-time women's basketball records.
Katie deserves this award every bit of this award. She's the typical CSU blue-collar athlete. Has a lot of talent, but it was her work ethic and her fire and her passion that really helped us succeed.
Tonight we pay tribute to the 2010 Hall of Fame Award winners. They represent the athletic and academic excellence of the Colorado State family. We celebrate the willpower, the drive, and the accomplishments of athletes both past and present. Their desire and courage to reach for lofty goals inspires the resolve of those who compete today.